My beloved child. There is something I have been waiting for the right moment to tell you. Not because you were unprepared. Not because you were unworthy. But because certain truths only reveal themselves when the soul is finally strong enough to carry them. And today, something has shifted. You may not see it yet. You may not hear the footsteps approaching your destiny. But deep within the unseen places where timing is woven and hearts are aligned, a decision has already begun to take shape. A decision that involves you. A decision that involves the one your soul has been calling for long before your mind ever knew their name. Pause for a moment and think about everything you have endured. The disappointments. The unanswered questions. The nights when you wondered whether anyone would ever truly understand the depths of your heart. You believed those moments were signs of abandonment. But what if they were signs of preparation? What if every delay was protecting something sacred? Because there is a truth few people ever realize. Real love does not arrive when you demand it. It arrives when both souls become capable of recognizing it. And that is where this story begins. Far away from your awareness, someone has been wrestling with questions they could no longer ignore. Questions about their future. Questions about their purpose. Questions about the strange feeling that something, or someone, was missing from their life. For a long time, they tried to silence those feelings. They buried themselves in distractions. Responsibilities. Expectations. They convinced themselves that what they were searching for did not exist. Yet no matter how hard they tried, the emptiness remained. Because some connections are written deeper than memory. Some bonds exist before two people ever meet. And lately, the signs have become impossible for them to overlook. The coincidences. The dreams. The unexpected moments of reflection. The feeling that destiny was quietly rearranging pieces behind the curtain. They did not understand why. Not at first. But then something happened. Something that changed the direction of their thoughts completely. A truth surfaced. Not all at once. Not with dramatic announcements. But slowly. Like the first light breaking through a long night. And the truth they discovered was connected to you. Not necessarily your name. Not necessarily your face. But your essence. Your energy. The person you have become through every challenge you survived. You see, while you were worrying that your journey had gone unnoticed, someone was beginning to recognize the exact qualities they had spent years searching for. The loyalty that remains when things become difficult. The strength hidden beneath your kindness. The wisdom born from experiences that could have broken you but didn't. These qualities carry a frequency. And whether you realize it or not, they travel farther than words ever can. This is why certain people suddenly enter periods of awakening. This is why certain hearts begin asking questions they never asked before. Because somewhere beyond the visible world, recognition begins before introduction. And the moment your soulmate started understanding this truth, everything changed. Their priorities shifted. Old illusions started losing their power. Things they once chased no longer felt meaningful. The future they imagined suddenly seemed incomplete. As if a missing piece had finally revealed itself. But here is what makes this moment so important. The decision they are now facing is far bigger than romance. It is a decision about courage. A decision about whether they will continue living according to fear. Or finally follow the path their soul has been whispering about for far too long. And right now, as unseen forces continue moving pieces into place, they stand at a crossroads. One path leads back to familiarity. The other leads toward a future neither of you can fully see yet. What they choose next will set events into motion faster than either of you expect. And the first sign is closer than you think. Closer than you have dared to imagine. Because at this very moment, they are preparing to make a major decision. A decision that could change everything. But before that choice is made, one final revelation must appear. And when it does, nothing will remain the same. The revelation will not arrive the way most people expect. It will not come wrapped in certainty. It will not announce itself with thunder or demand attention with noise. Instead, it will emerge in a quiet moment. A moment so ordinary that many would overlook it. Yet for your soulmate, that moment will feel as if an invisible veil has suddenly been lifted. And when it happens, they will realize something that has been hidden in plain sight for far longer than they imagined. Here is what they are beginning to understand. The qualities they once searched for in others were never found because they were searching in the wrong places. For years, they focused on appearances, achievements, temporary excitement. The things the world celebrates loudly. But eventually, the soul grows tired of illusions. Eventually, it starts craving something real. Something lasting. Something that cannot be manufactured or pretended. And that hunger has been growing inside them. Stronger each day. More persistent each night. Like a distant melody they can no longer ignore. The strange part is this. As they move closer to this realization, they keep encountering reminders of the kind of person they truly need. Not the version created by expectations. Not the version shaped by pressure. The genuine version. The rare kind of connection that feels less like meeting someone new and more like remembering someone important. Have you ever wondered why certain experiences seem designed to test your heart? Why some doors closed no matter how hard you tried to keep them open? Why certain chapters ended despite your best efforts? There is a reason. Because not every connection was meant to stay. Some were teachers. Some were mirrors. Some were lessons disguised as losses. But one connection was always moving toward you, even while both of you traveled separate roads. And now those roads are beginning to bend toward the same destination. Your soulmate can feel it. Even if they cannot fully explain it. They wake up with questions they never had before. They find themselves reflecting on the future in ways that surprise them. They are becoming less interested in temporary comfort and more interested in lasting truth. That shift may seem small. But it changes everything. Because when a person starts choosing truth over comfort, destiny gains room to move. And destiny has been waiting patiently. Much longer than either of you realize. Yet there is another layer to this story. A layer that explains why the decision before them feels so significant. You see, they are not only discovering who they want. They are discovering who they want to become. That realization carries tremendous power. Because genuine love does not simply bring two people together. It transforms them. It challenges them. It calls them higher. And somewhere deep inside, they know that answering this call will require courage. The courage to release old fears. The courage to trust what they cannot yet see. The courage to stop running from what their heart already knows. Many people spend their entire lives avoiding such moments. They stay where things feel predictable. They remain attached to old stories. They convince themselves that safety is the same thing as peace. But your soulmate has reached a turning point. The old version of their life no longer fits. The old explanations no longer satisfy. The old fears no longer hold the same authority. And that is why the coming decision feels impossible to ignore. Because once truth enters the room, pretending becomes exhausting. Once the soul recognizes its direction, standing still becomes painful. And lately, they have felt both. More intensely than ever before. Perhaps that explains why you have sensed unusual shifts within yourself as well. Moments of reflection. Unexpected emotions. A feeling that something important is approaching even though you cannot define it. These experiences are not random. The heart often detects movement long before the mind understands it. And there is movement now. Far more than you can currently see. Pieces are aligning. Conversations are being prepared. Opportunities are approaching. Invisible threads are tightening between timelines that once seemed completely unrelated. The remarkable thing is that neither of you fully controls this process. You only control how you respond when the moment arrives. And that moment is drawing nearer. Every lesson you endured. Every setback you survived. Every season that tested your patience. They were building strength for what comes next. Because when your soulmate completes the decision now unfolding within them, they will no longer be able to view their future through the same lens. The picture is changing. The priorities are changing. The destination is changing. And very soon, they will take a step that confirms everything their soul has been trying to tell them. A step that feels small on the surface, yet carries consequences far beyond what anyone can see. But there is still one obstacle standing between realization and action. One final shadow that must be faced. And when that shadow appears, your soulmate will have to choose between the voice of fear and the voice that has been guiding them toward you all along. What happens in that moment will determine how quickly the next chapter begins. And the choice is closer than either of you realize. The shadow is not what most people imagine. It is not an enemy standing in the distance. It is not a force determined to destroy what is meant for you. No. The final shadow often arrives disguised as something familiar. A memory. A doubt. A question that whispers, "What if this doesn't work?" And for a brief moment, even the strongest hearts hesitate. Your soulmate has reached that moment now. Not because they lack faith. Not because they are unwilling to move forward. But because every meaningful transformation requires one last test. A test that asks a simple question. Will you trust what your soul knows, even when your eyes cannot yet see the outcome? That question has echoed through their thoughts more than once. They have tried to reason with it. Analyze it. Delay it. Yet the answer keeps returning. Quietly. Persistently. Like a river carving its path through stone. Because some truths are too powerful to remain buried. And the truth growing inside them has become impossible to silence. Something within them keeps returning to the same realization. The life they have been building is no longer enough without deeper meaning. The goals that once consumed their attention feel incomplete. The victories they once celebrated seem strangely hollow when they imagine experiencing them alone. This awareness has changed the way they see everything. The future no longer appears as a collection of achievements. It appears as a journey meant to be shared. And somewhere within that vision, you keep appearing. Not necessarily as a face. Not necessarily as a specific image. But as a feeling. A presence. A certainty they cannot explain. A peace they have been searching for without realizing it. That realization has unsettled them. Not because it is wrong. But because it feels profoundly right. And sometimes the right path can be more intimidating than the wrong one. The wrong path requires no courage. The familiar path asks for nothing. But the path toward destiny? That path demands trust. It demands surrender. It asks a person to release the illusion that they must control every outcome before taking the first step. Your soulmate is learning this now. Day by day. Moment by moment. And as they learn, another remarkable change is occurring. The walls around their heart are beginning to weaken. Not through force. Not through pressure. But through understanding. You see, many people build emotional walls because they fear disappointment. They fear vulnerability. They fear opening themselves to something that matters. Your soulmate carried some of those fears for longer than they should have. They convinced themselves they were protecting their heart. But recently, they have begun to see the truth. A heart that never risks being hurt also prevents itself from being fully loved. That realization has shaken something loose within them. And once a person understands that truth, they can never return to who they were before. This is why the coming days feel so significant. The internal battle is reaching its conclusion. The questions that once created confusion are producing clarity. The hesitation that once delayed movement is losing its grip. And every time they choose courage over fear, the distance between your paths becomes smaller. Much smaller. Yet there is a detail you have not fully understood. A detail that explains why everything seems to be accelerating. For a long time, the timing was not right. There were lessons unfinished. Wounds unhealed. Perspectives not yet gained. If certain events had happened earlier, neither of you would have been prepared to receive what was waiting. That truth may be difficult to appreciate. But one day, you will look back and recognize how perfectly everything was arranged. Even the delays. Even the detours. Even the chapters that felt unnecessary. Nothing was wasted. Every experience added a piece to the foundation being built beneath your future. And now that foundation is stronger than ever. Strong enough to support what comes next. Strong enough to support a connection rooted in truth rather than fantasy. Strong enough to survive challenges that would have broken weaker bonds. Your soulmate senses this strength. They may not have the words for it yet. But they feel it. A growing certainty. A growing pull. A growing awareness that something extraordinary is drawing near. And because of that awareness, they are preparing to do something they once thought impossible. They are preparing to stop negotiating with fear. To stop delaying what their soul already knows. To stop pretending that destiny can be ignored forever. The decision is forming completely now. Its shape is becoming clear. Its direction is becoming undeniable. And with every passing day, their resolve becomes stronger. But before the decision is revealed outwardly. Before action replaces contemplation. Before the first visible sign reaches your world. A final confirmation is about to arrive. A confirmation so unexpected. So precise. That it will remove the last trace of uncertainty from their heart. When that moment appears, everything will begin moving faster than either of you anticipated. And what follows will reveal why every chapter before this one had to unfold exactly as it did. The confirmation will arrive when it is least expected. Not during a moment of certainty. Not when everything feels perfectly organized. But in the middle of ordinary life. When defenses are lowered and distractions fade for just long enough for truth to be heard. That is often how destiny speaks. Quietly. Patiently. Without forcing itself upon anyone. And yet, when the message arrives, it changes everything. Your soulmate is approaching that moment now. Closer than they realize. There have already been hints. Small signals scattered throughout recent days and weeks. Conversations that lingered in their mind longer than they should have. Unexpected feelings that surfaced without explanation. Moments of stillness that seemed to carry meaning beyond words. At first, these experiences appeared unrelated. Random. Coincidental. Easy to dismiss. But patterns become difficult to ignore once they repeat often enough. And lately, the pattern has become unmistakable. Every road of reflection seems to lead them back to the same place. Every honest conversation with themselves arrives at the same conclusion. Every attempt to look away somehow redirects their attention toward what truly matters. It is as if life itself has been gently guiding them toward a realization they can no longer postpone. And that realization carries your energy within it. Not because destiny removes free will. Not because the future is written in rigid stone. but because certain connections resonate so deeply that they begin influencing decisions long before introductions occur. Your soulmate has started recognizing that resonance. The feeling is unfamiliar, yet strangely comforting. Powerful, yet peaceful. It does not create chaos. It creates clarity. And clarity can be a life-changing force. Because once a person sees clearly, excuses lose their power. Old fears lose their authority. And the path ahead becomes impossible to ignore. This is where the major decision begins to take visible form. For so long, they have stood between two worlds. One world built from habit. The other built from possibility. One world asks them to remain exactly as they are. The other asks them to become who they were always meant to be. Most people spend years standing at this threshold. Some never cross it. Not because they lack potential, but because transformation requires courage. And courage often arrives disguised as uncertainty. Your soulmate is discovering this truth firsthand. The uncertainty they once feared is no longer stopping them. Instead, it is pushing them forward. Every unanswered question has become an invitation to trust. Every unknown outcome has become an opportunity to grow. And with each passing day, the voice of fear grows quieter. The voice of purpose grows stronger. There is something beautiful happening inside them right now. Something they themselves may not fully understand. The version of them that was shaped by limitation is slowly giving way to a version shaped by faith. Not blind faith. Not wishful thinking. But the kind of faith that emerges when the soul recognizes a truth too profound to deny. That recognition is changing how they see the future. The dreams they once considered distant now feel attainable. The connection they once believed impossible now feels natural. And the life they once imagined living alone now feels incomplete without sharing it with someone who truly understands them. That awareness has become impossible to ignore. And here is what makes this moment extraordinary. The same transformation occurring within them is creating movement around you as well. Perhaps you have noticed subtle shifts. A growing sense that a chapter is ending. An unusual feeling of anticipation. A quiet awareness that life is preparing to reveal something important. These sensations are not accidental. They are signs of transition. Signs that old timelines are closing and new ones are opening. Signs that what once felt distant is beginning to move closer. Very close. Because destiny is not simply preparing one person. It prepares both. It arranges circumstances. It aligns timing. It creates opportunities for paths to intersect at exactly the right moment. And when that moment approaches, life often becomes strangely symbolic. Certain lessons repeat themselves one final time. Certain questions return for one final answer. Certain doors close so that better doors can finally open. Your soulmate is experiencing this now. The final lessons are unfolding. The final doubts are being confronted. The final pieces are falling into place. And as this process completes itself, the decision they have been forming internally is becoming irreversible. They can feel it. A point of no return. A moment where continuing to ignore their heart would require more effort than following it. That moment is approaching rapidly. Soon, contemplation will become action. Reflection will become movement. Hope will become direction. And when it does, the first outward sign of their decision will appear. A sign that seems small to the outside world, yet carries enormous significance behind the scenes. Because that single step will mark the beginning of a sequence neither of you can stop once it starts. A sequence that has been building for far longer than you know. But before that first step is taken, before the decision becomes visible, one final truth must be revealed. A truth connected not to who your soulmate is, but to who you have become. And when that truth reaches them completely, it will remove the last remaining barrier between intention and action. What happens after that will change the pace of everything.